So let's talk about what a precept is then. A precept is a principle. So here, in the inner level, we're working with principles of conduct. There's that big clock you guys bought me that you stand in front of all the time. It's helpful. Ah, voila. So now we're talking about principles when it comes to precepts. You can slip the word principle if you don't like precept, okay? What's the difference? This one tells you what to do. This one tells you what to do. This one here gives you a guiding experience that you're supposed to open into. That is a clear reflection of essence on an essential level before it comes out into the actual type of conduct. So it precedes the conduct. So you can see this hierarchy here that you have. Control goes to outer activity. It tells you exactly what conduct you can have and what conduct you cannot have. The inner level of practice, the principle level basis, tells you here's the feeling you should be cultivating. I should cultivate the feeling of loving all beings, never wanting to harm another being, you know. That's the feeling I should cultivate. I should have that feeling foremost in my mind all the time, you see? Instead of telling you what to do. And that has to do with your energy base, with your emotion, with your attitude. That's energy. That's speech in Tantra, right? And then the secret level is the mind. By the time you've reconditioned your outer and your inner, your mind is naturally resting in its essence, basically. It's programmed by the Dharma already to think Dharmic thoughts, to be with Dharmic experiences, and it just rests. It just comes back and rests in its nature when you're not using it to count your change from the store. Because really, thinking is highly overrated. People walk around thinking all the time, agitate, cogitate, cogitate. But do you really have to think all the time? Swami Yogananda said a beautiful thing. Think about a problem once, get the solution in your mind, let it go. Never think of it again. It's really beautiful advice, isn't it? Most of us just mull and mull and mull, right? Go over and over and over. Or just are triggered. You know, I was driving down the highway one day with a guy who hired me to come down to teach his group of students in a certain part of Australia. And as we were in the car, every 1 to 2 seconds, a word or a phrase came out of his mouth. Oh, green sign, yeah. Road's clear. No clouds. Fast, going fast. I was like, what the hell's going on? Dunlop tires. KFC. I was like, what the hell? This guy was, as soon as he got any input visual, it came right out of his mouth. And I thought, wow, you know, and the first time you meet a teacher, you're always a bit hyper-facilitated. So I thought, okay, we'll put it down to him being a bit, you know, on edge because he's meeting this weird teacher and inviting him down to teach for the first time. He doesn't know anything about Dharma culture, really. He lived in Japan for a long time, but, you know, I don't know. So this was just coming straight out robotically. Isn't that wild? So our mind doesn't need to do that. I mean, he was expressing what we all do internally usually all the time, right? I mean, unless we train our mind a lot in the Dharma. So we don't need that kind of a mind, really. The mind is actually a function. It's not a substance, right? It's not even an object, even though there are no objects. It's not even one you can make into an object. So the mind really is just a function. It just should arise when it's needed. And then it should resolve back to its nature when it's not needed anymore. Sure, we need it. You gotta count your change. You gotta do things that take intellectual effort, right? But that also can be buoyant within the fourth state, within the essence state as well at some point. So a precept is a guideline, a principle, a way of entering into a deeper relationship to your own true nature, which, when you think about it, has a qualitative tone. So precepts are all about qualitative tone. Vows on the outer level, vows of conduct on the outer level are all quantitative. I will do this, I will not do this, I will do X number of this, I won't do X number of that. It's all quantitative. So you're shifting towards the qualitative, what's called bhava or rasa. Rasa is the essential experience of something, the sap of something, the sweetness of something, the essence of something. Yeah? Bhava, the attitudinal, emotional disposition of a moment, of a feeling, of a person. Put them together and you kind of get closer to what precepts are about. Now, what is this flavor? What is this quality of a precept? every precept can be said to have quality of virtue. Quality of virtue, right? So we send 3 Navy SEAL teams in to get Osama bin Laden. These are virtuous warriors. They go in, they're expressing action, virtuous action. They're righting a wrong on a universal scale, if we see it in its proper light. And so the conduct is there. Virtuous warriors going to do a virtuous job. Inside their hearts, it's, I'm ready to die for the world not having these kind of kooky people around. I'm ready to give my life so that you and me and you and we can go through airports and not get blown up. We can be in buildings doing our work in the office and not get blown up, right? Forget about all the other stuff. I'm just talking here purely about principle now. They're ready to die for that. That's high. Most of us can't get close to that. Most would be like, good for you. Go die for us. That's awesome. Well, so that's a very high principle-based life that they live. It's very hard, and they die, and indeed they do die quite a bit. So you don't expect it. I think the average age for a Navy SEAL or Green Beret, the high ones, the Rangers and stuff, I think it's like 25 or 6 is considered to be very old to make it through that, right? So principles are like this, they're qualities. So in that Navy SEAL example, we have the quality of courage, loyalty, compassion, obviously compassion. Willing to die for other people is a serious high level of compassion, right? You may think about, I always use military examples because I think they're very good and they're very ancient and they really do illustrate high level conduct. Some people, especially young people that don't understand this, like hippie oriented and screw the government kind of people, don't understand that this is a very high level of conduct and a high spiritual practice, high level of attainment. But it puts together many virtues into one package of spiritual cultivation, military training in this sense, in real martial arts, So these people are exemplifying this. So it's a really good way to illustrate this. If you let go of your filter of, oh, the armies are bad and government's bad and we fight wars that are bad. We do it all the time. But the individual warriors in there shouldn't be the ones that are discredited for this incredible acts of valor that they'll engage in. And the great spiritual cultivation that they have if they're actually true to that path. So that's the more level of principle, virtues. So when we're expressing as the main mode to judge our conduct by a virtue, that's a precept. When we're judging our conduct, adjusting our conduct, refining our conduct based upon a virtuous expression, that's a precept. In Thailand, I go into a bar to have a drink. See, because we don't have vows against drinking. So I go in a bar to have a drink, and there's, 50% hookers or whatever, and they come up and talk to me. Do I all of a sudden go, oh, you're just so low compared to my high morality, Of course not. Buy her a drink, sit down. She wants to put her hand on my leg, it's part of the job, but what do I, lose my mind or something? No, you can put your hand on my leg, I don't care, I'm not a monk, it's no big deal. Doesn't make me do anything at all. Doesn't make me respond anyway. It's just natural behavior. It's like me saying, Sawadee cop on the street. The hooker says, I'm putting my hand on your thigh. That's hooker language, And really quickly they get from me, this ain't gonna work. Really quickly they get, this ain't gonna work. And then usually we'll start talking about their life, which is great. We talked about real life. So I was in Shanghai and I was in a bar and there was kind of this thing going on. I said, so how's the game tonight anyway? Because they call it the game, Because they all come from Thailand and Vietnam, so they know the lingo in English. How's the game tonight? Oh, it's a bit slow. Lots of girls tonight. Oh, so young and pretty, and I'm so old now, so ugly. So now it's like, we're talking like real people and processing out, Yeah, I think you should start putting some time into learning how to program computers. The end is not coming soon. You're getting older. A little bit of advice. Outer vow-based person, that would probably be a sin to be in the bar. Maybe a sin to talk to that person, touch that person, have them touch me, right? All these different things would be going on. But as a principle-based person, that is if you have control of yourself in a precept world, it's all fine. And you're actually practicing in that moment. You're meeting that human with dignity. That human's a human being. You shouldn't think, oh, they do this kind of job, they're a lowlife. This is a bad idea. This is like caste. We got rid of caste a long time ago in Tantra. Way before Buddha was born, we were getting rid of caste. Right? this idea of labeling people based on what they do and thinking of them this way and treating them this way is no good for Tantra. We have to meet beings on the level of human presence and love, right? Then we're a human being. Then we're a human being too, see? Okay, so I think we get the idea between principle and precept. Any question in the room here so I can guide how we're going on that? Did I make it clear? Overseas, clear? Yeah? Claro, see? Yeah? Okay. Yeah? All right. So let's go to the next level, morality, because then this brings up the next whole question about morality. Tantra is very famous for what people see as immoral behavior by its practitioners, even by its great famous teachers, some of them. Immoral behavior. So, is Tantra moral or immoral? Does anybody know the answer to my trick question?
Amoral?
Huh?
Amoral?
It's amoral. It's neither immoral nor moral. Right? It's neither immoral or moral. It's amoral. Meaning, there are no morality issues in Tantra. It's all about what is inherently in your nature and how you express these higher virtues of humanity through your conduct, moment to moment to moment to moment, for the highest good for as many as you can conceive of, for the greatest benefit for as many beings as you can conceive of. Do you understand that? Wow, God just came in the form of music. So, that was lovely, lovely break. You understand? So, amorality in Tantra also doesn't mean nihilism. It doesn't mean a nihilistic view of conduct, where whatever I do doesn't matter because there is no great summation at the end of the game that matters. Well, in Tantra, there is a great summation at the end of the game that matters, symbolized by your death, you know. There is this opening into essence. Will I open well into essence or not? Of course, we're accumulating and generating the experience of practice our whole life and conduct so we can more and more allow our essence to come out and be there, especially at the death moment, right? So it's not a nihilistic sense, I can do whatever I want, I can be an anarchist. The idea of anarchy, you know, it's extremely immature. Nihilism is not really well thought out, nor sensed. If you have any sensibility, nihilism cannot even exist, because if you just sense, you'll start to sense nature in yourself and realize that that doesn't work. There's a sentient, loving nature that is the substrate of the whole universe. So nihilists are just people who haven't opened to that yet, that's fine. But anarchists, that's just plain the baby spitting up the milk on your shoulder kind of thing. That's crazy, right? So we're not immoral, we're not moral as tantrics, we're amoral. We want to, in each moment, this is tantric practice extraordinaire. That's what's so high and powerful about the precepts, and people just gloss over it. Take initiation into the system, here's your precepts, have a class on it, okay, just file that away, never study them again. Bad idea, bad idea. Should be studied every day a little bit in the first year or two when you first begin tantric practice. Review them every night. I used to have a checklist of 64 behaviors from the feeling level that would illustrate whether I was in those precepts during the day or when I'd broken them. And red in the box when I remember a day, I would contemplate on my whole day. It would take 15, 20 minutes. Yes, I did, yeah, you know. And then the green was for when it was good. And of course my graph sheets started out looking like blood spill, you know. And then it was carnage, of course, for everyone around me, because that's what it's like when we don't have good precept conduct. It's carnage for everybody around us, including us. And slowly it became like a Christmas tree, little green and red, till eventually it was like the nice pine forest with occasional Christmas bulbs, you know, of red. We could deal with it when it's like that. We're human and this is how it goes. It's still like that. Nobody's perfect conduct. But to go for the perfect conduct is not to be perfect and tight in the way you do things morally, conduct vow, but in precept to strive for the best benefit to all beings in every moment of your life, exhibited by these virtues that relate to the precepts. Right? The precepts help us understand how they come out. So this answers the question of tantric morality. I believe that the people I know that practice tantra sincerely are practicing at what people would consider to be the definition of morality, a much higher level than most other people I know who are in outer religions that espouse morality. Right? And yet we don't care about morals at all. Which brings us to another part of this. There is no outside agency in Tantra that has dominion over us. There is no outside agency in Tantra, in non-dual Tantra, that has dominion over us. There is no God out there that rules us. There is no big person on a chair with a big flowing beard in a big white place that made us, that controls us. It just isn't there. That's such an ingrained concept. Like in America, when you're a little kid, if you're not watching this from America, I don't know what you do in your country, but we put our hand on our heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag, and we'd have to say all this stuff about one nation, under God, all this kind of thing. And right away, from when you're little, they're programming you into the sense that there's some great creator being out there that controls your life and tells you what right and wrong is. And yeah. So you grow up with that kind of conditioning to say that there's no supreme being out there who made the universe, who made you, etc. It's like, huh? It's kind of hard for us to even go there. To understand that each moment is the creative moment. The freshness of presence and essence is arising fresh in each moment. Wow. It's new for us, see? So, in our sense of precepts, they didn't come to us from an outside source. They're inherently natural, and they contain inherent natural wisdom. These precepts contain inherent natural wisdom, and they point us back to inherent natural wisdom. They arise from that natural wisdom, and they point us back to it. When we use our svatantriya, our tantric innate power of our essence to be free, to choose to even go against natural wisdom conduct. See? These precepts which come from it can point us back. It's all just natural. It's what's natural. Okay? When you say it feels right to harm another being, it feels right to torture another being, it feels right to hurt another being, the people who say that it feels right at the deepest level they can connect to, they have a problem with their brain. We see the brain, they do. We see the brain, it's the psychopathic brain that's gone to the sociopath side. There are psychopathic brains that don't go to the sociopath side, and they're just really good at what they do. Cold, cutting, usually the commandos I described earlier. But see the compassion. The commandos will die for someone else. I mean, that's huge. Whereas the sociopath will not. You will die for them. It's quite different, isn't it? So the brain of the sociopath has definitely a different wiring in there. We've noticed that over the last 10 or 15 years of research. It's a different thing going on upstairs. Hardwired in the wrong way, we could say. So make it really clear that when non-dual Shaiva Tantra, Shakta Shaiva Dharma, non-dual Shakta Shaiva Dharma talks about Shiva, Parama Shiva, Parashakti, Bhairava, Bhairavi, Ananda, all these terms, many, many terms for ultimate essence, Anuttara Shiva, Shambhu Shiva, right? We're not talking about a supreme being outside your own nature. Those terms are anthropomorphized ways for us to try to contact in some symbolic sense that essence that is unknowable, uncontrollable, the great Dharma, the great Tao. So these precepts did not come from a supreme being other than your own being. So if we say, in some systems we say, this deity gave us the precepts, that sounds like a creator being on the outside gave you these rules that you have to live by or you're going to go to hell or something. Just sounds like just like Christianity. That's a problem with tantric teachers if they don't understand how Westerners grow up, Come out of Tibet, come over and teach you these precepts that came from this God, and you're like, oh, okay, I just swapped gods, It was Yahweh, but now it's Vajrasattva, and I have to do it to Vajrasattva or Green Tara or something. Those deities are one at essence with Source, just as we are. Our own human arising is no different than the arising of a god or a goddess or a demigod or a demon or a ghost or any other of the 64,000 beings in the universe. But in Tantra, we have very great friends, very great and powerful friends, Realized masters that were human, realized masters that are deities. We take advantage of both. If a deity is going to come and give me some precepts and transmit to me something from my own essence that I can't see clearly, and the package is going to help me follow it to become more of who I am, can I not understand that as my own essence showing up to help my own essence be revealed? Of course, this is the way it really is. This is the real nature of that relationship. Why we shouldn't see the guru as a perpetrator on the outside, as some kind of, perpetrator or torturer or tormentor or something trying to get me to do good things. And, if we understand the true relationship, we're all arising, self-arising actually, self-arising, self-perfected from essence. Except my teacher is just so much more clear about it than me. Through their advanced practice, years ahead of me, whatever it is. Even if they're younger than me, whatever, it doesn't matter. What I have to see is we're both arising from the same source. And that whatever they're advising me on is making me remember my own essence. that they are actually a part of. And that with our teachers, we have this intrinsic relationship with them, where they are spontaneously co-arising with us. We just don't see that until we get into higher stages of realization. Okay, so precepts don't come from a God, yeah? Is that clear? They're not moral injunctions telling you what to do, and if you don't do them, you get these bad consequences. So when I was a Catholic and training to be a priest, actually, believe it or not, pre-seminary, I was in testing the waters, because the whole family wanted me to be a priest. If you did something wrong, in the early Middle Ages, the monks from Ireland were considered to be the best at figuring out what you needed to do as far as a practice to make up for the sin you did. So the Pope at the time gave the monks from Ireland the job of 10 Our Fathers for this, 100 Hail Marys for that. Did you ever raise Catholic by any chance? Yeah. Just reek of it. We reek of this. See, Bronx Catholic. Okay. So I remember studying that and I was like, you're kidding me. You know, what made me not be a priest was seminary. You know, going to school to learn about where it came from. And it was so funny how the Catholics were so honest about it, you know, that marriage was only something that was made illegal for the priests in the late 1600s. They only came heavily on it in the late 1600s. That's why before that there was no pedophilia, you know, because everybody was getting it on. Priests were happily getting it on. Great. See, take that away and whoa, you know what I mean? That's trouble. So in the same way, the monks in Ireland were given the task of creating the balance between what you did wrong, whether it was a venial sin, which means you wouldn't lose your soul, but it was like a scar. You could take it away with some kind of prayer, or a mortal sin, which you lost your soul for. You know, they decided which was which and how many prayers would equal it out. When I learned that, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely, utterly ridiculous. And my Jesuit priest was like, yes, it is ridiculous, but get the idea. You did these bad karmas, and you're gonna do other karmas to make up for it. I go, okay, good idea, this is good. But saying it's actually 10 or 12 prayers, I mean, come on, this is ridiculous. If I don't do the 10th, what, I still go to hell? If I forgot what number I'm on, I did 9, I go to hell? You know? I said, let's let go of this idea. See? So anyway, the idea with the precepts is if I break a precept, and I'm in non-dual tantrika, I actually go through my Shaktashaiva Dharma foundation practice every morning, and there's a part where I get to the Guru Yoga prayer, and what do? Confess all what I've done against my own essence and harming myself and others. In my own mind, heart, I confess it directly. And I don't confess it to anyone, I just confess it witnessed by the Mahasiddhas and Gurus of the tradition, the beings of pure love and compassion, saying, I want to be in that communion. That's the communion I want, you know. Of course, when a Catholic first gets that thing and doesn't really get it yet, it's going to be like, oh God, thank God I get to confess to someone, you know. I'm confessing to the Guru, that's great. See, because in the Catholic Church, a priest is an intercessor for that supreme being. It doesn't matter if it's Christianity, you know, Reformed, Protestant, or Catholic, it's the same, really. Go and confess. You talk to the preacher. You still feel like you had the intercessor. You still feel like they're more holy than you, an intercessor for God, and then they forgive you for God, right? But in non-dual tantra, no one can forgive you but you. You can go to the priest and get all the forgiveness you want for murdering your brother over a business deal. But it doesn't matter what they dominus, ominous, and throw water on your head. It doesn't matter. Because if you go away guilty, you're still guilty. You still feel guilty. You have to come to it yourself. You have to reconcile it yourself. And this is what Tantra always recognizes. It doesn't matter what happens from the outside. So in Tantra, instead of somebody else telling me I'm purified as an intercessor for some other being that made me that I can't see, know, or touch, or whatever, in any practical sense, we self-confess to our own mind's awareness in the light of our own loving, compassionate embrace to realize that what we did wasn't good for others or for me. And we rectify in that moment. And we atone in the same moment. We ring the bell and we feel the essential recalibration of everything in that moment. Because the only thing that keeps us from feeling recalibrated back to essence every moment is our mind. As soon as we let go, we're back, right? Like the Hawaiians teach their children, the old Hawaiian system, the Ohana system used to teach their children when they were born that they're born with a bowl, a big wood bowl. And it's full of light, full of the essence light. Every little boy and girl has a big bowl. This is what they teach them when they're little kids, like 3-4 years old. You're all born with a big bowl, and they use the sacred wood, for the analogy. And the light's pouring out. Light's a big image in Polynesia, the sunsets and the sunrises, That's essence. It's a beautiful image. All traditions are like that, non-duality. And they say, and every time you harm Kehanu over here, or something like that, or Ke'ili'i over here, then you're taking a rock and you're putting it in the bowl. You're taking a rock, they tell them, you're taking a rock and putting it in your bowl, right? And little by little, the light gets covered up and no more light comes out. And they say, whenever you want to remember your light, you just turn over the bowl and pour it all out. And there it is again. Mm-hmm. So imagine teaching that to a little kid instead of all the other stuff we learned about morality and things, right? That's a precept. It's telling you that you're always in touch with your own essence, and you're the only one who can obscure it, and you're the one who can rectify it. That's beautiful. That's what's happening in the non-dual tantra, right? So if we break the precepts, we rectify ourselves. We self-rectify, one of the most important aspects. We self-confess, we self-rectify, and something feels good about that process. And I don't mean it on a Catholic level either. I don't mean it on a purificatory level, like a stage 2 level. I mean, something feels right about rectifying, putting my heart back in the proper groove with nature again of love, compassion, service, not harming and so on, ahimsa. Something feels really right about that at the essential level. So we do it for ourselves. This is the question of morality in Tantra and whether our precepts are vows and whether those vows come from outside beings. No. Amoral, based on inherent natural wisdom, and this conduct coming out as an expression of that, and using the principles, the precepts, and reminding ourselves of them until we know them inside and out to guide our behavior in each moment. See, if you were to study, at least to read them once a day, which I tell people to do, read it every day for the first month when you're initiated. Then read it a few times a week for the next month or two. Then read it once a week for the next month or two. And at least a few times a year, read the whole thing again once you're a practitioner and you're well advanced. Because you have to recondition your thinking and your mind so that when situations arise, the first thing that comes out should be the first programmed response. Should be love, should be service, should be gratitude, should be courage, should be honesty, should be loyalty, should be, all these things. The first response. It takes time to recondition yourself to that's the first response. And when that's the first response, then you'll start to express essence more easily, more freely, which means you'll be more in touch with who you are as a true human, right? True human being. And of course, everything we know, all the good qualities of life come from being in touch with what we are as true human beings, yeah? I was just talking to somebody the other day, my grandfather Thundercloud, great Cherokee teacher, a healer, but also great spiritual teacher. We were talking about what it is to be human. And he was saying, in our tradition, you're born with a belt. You're born and your family members give you a belt. Just a leather piece like this, a leather strip that's been beaded really pretty on the border. And it's got 12 sections and they're blank, And you become a human by attaining all these 12 sections. Right? So when the elders are noticing as you go through life that you've attained basic truthfulness or basic loyalty or basic, they have all these precepts, basically. They just beat it for you, the symbol of it. Maybe the turtle represents stability, and then and when you get to the 12th, you're presented with this in the ceremony. You're a human being. Then what you say in the tribe has a lot of value. Then it was worn across, and you would walk around and people could recognize you. So young people could come up and ask you something. And it's a great system. Imagine we had that in our culture today. How lovely that would be. That I could walk down the street in New York or Newark, New Jersey, and go, I'm not sure. Can I ask you something? Sure. It'd be, yes. Let me help you, little one. Huh. All this comes out of, I think, precepts, really. Okay. Any question on those so far? No? Okay. So the precepts are also, checking my cheat sheet here, they're also, very importantly, practices of body, speech, and mind. Not just the body. They show up in the body because that's the easiest to work with, right? Controlling our mind is difficult. Getting our energy under control, a little less difficult, but still pretty difficult for most people. See people raging out of control with emotional reactions or desires or passions. Or not even raging out of control, just smoldering all the time. But working with the body and our conduct, there we have something we can really look at and point to and really work with, yeah? So it's a full practice because it engages my mind to contemplate the virtuous precept. It engages my energy to feel that precept. Because if I can't feel compassion, it's not compassion. If I can't feel loyalty, it's not loyalty. If I can't feel Vajra pride or the innate dignity of being an essence being, it's not. So feeling has to be there. That will naturally make me speak a certain way about others, to others, for others, and so on. So that's all speech and energy, right? And of course, then the action will flow from there.